Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of FOX45 News In Depth. I'm Mikenzie Frost. Governor Wes Moore and President Donald Trump's war of words is heating up. The governor once again appearing on national media, taking aim at the Trump administration. The president isn't holding back either, targeting Governor Moore on a range of issues, from immigration to the Key Bridge rebuild and the Potomac River sewage spill. The two have been at odds since the beginning of Trump's second term, but this latest feud has some wondering how the animosity could impact Marylanders. Maryland Governor Wes Moore and President Donald Trump have had a history of trading barbs. Last summer, amid the National Guard surge in Washington, D.C.,
I want to ask you about another big issue that you are facing in your state.
Moore made it clear troops were not welcome on the ground in Maryland.
From homicides to carjackings, you say that Baltimore has actually had the same type of drop as Washington, D.C. has had during this period, and we didn't mobilize the National Guard.
The governor went on a national media blitz last year, taking aim at the president and arguing Maryland did not need the National Guard. During an interview with FOX45 News in August, the governor touted crime reductions while trying to quell the tensions.
I'm not interested in having a back and forth with the president. This is not personal between me and the president.
You called him President Bone Spurs.
No, what this is I'm going to fight for my people. And when I'm hearing attacks on our state and on our state's largest city, things like hellhole and hellscape and deathscape, I feel like the federal government, that our state is under attack from the federal government. But if the President of the United States at any time wants to have a serious conversation about how not to fight us, but how to fight for us, I would be very excited to have that conversation with him.
While President Trump walked back his plans to send troops to Baltimore, the two leaders were not done sparring. Late last year, U.S. Secretary Sean Duffy sent this letter to Governor Moore outlining concerns with the Key Bridge reconstruction timeline, price tag, and warning DEI hiring practices could become a problem.
We need to make sure we're looking out for the federal taxpayer and also rebuild this bridge.
Something Duffy talked about during an exclusive interview with FOX45 Spotlight on Maryland.
But we want to build this project in a way that is cost effective and actually can be built quickly. I don't know that the governor is on that path right now.
The rebuild effort of the Key Bridge could now top $5 billion, significantly more than the original highest estimate of $1.8 billion. Then in early 2026, Duffy and Moore met to talk about their issues.
We agree that the Key Bridge is now the fastest moving project, major project in the United States of America right now.
Did the state address any of those issues? Are practices changing?
No, I think we expressed and he acknowledged that we are following federal guidelines. We are not doing anything that is not completely aligned with federal guidelines and federal regulations.
As the Key Bridge problems appeared to be settled for now, the feud between Moore and Trump was reignited. During the governor's fourth State of the State address.
No, I cannot and I will not stand here and tell you that I've gotten it all right. I'm more self-aware than the President of the United States.
Moore highlighted policies that have impacted the state, including job cuts, health care, and food assistance.
Marylanders are seeing firsthand how this White House agenda is making their lives worse.
And days later, the governor announced he was uninvited to a National Governors Association event, typically a bipartisan affair at the White House. Trump then fired back on social media, writing all governors were invited except two he felt were not worthy of being there, including Governor Moore. The president went on to say Moore is the, quote, foul-mouthed governor of Maryland, who fraudulently stated that he received military medals, a lie, is doing a terrible job on the rebuilding of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and has allowed Baltimore to continue to be a crime disaster. Baltimore's crime numbers have declined in recent years and has recorded the fewest number of homicides.
I don't know President Trump personally. In my 10 years of observing him or so, he's not real big on restraint of those types of things.
Republicans in Maryland, like House Minority Leader Jason Buckle, argue, though, the governor should be the one to turn down the temperature as the rhetoric with the president heats up. How would you describe the relationship that between those two leaders the impact on Maryland, and do you foresee negative consequences?
I do, and it's a shame because all of us, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter who you are, we should put those sort of political things and petty personal disputes, you should put them aside when you're talking about how you run the government. But I would hope that Governor Moore would recognize that millions of Marylanders depend on us having a reasonably good relationship with the federal government, whether they're employees, whether they're people who need assistance, whether they're areas that need funding, whether it's the Key Bridge situation. That doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything the Trump administration does, but there's a way to disagree, there's a way to communicate without it becoming this constant Twitter-based back and forth calling of names.
As the two leaders continue to find themselves in the spotlight and making headlines, it's not clear when the latest feud will end. And as you heard in the president's Truth Social post, he attacked Governor Moore's military service. He was referring to Moore's Bronze Star, which the governor did receive in December of 2024 after he said his paperwork wasn't properly processed. But years before receiving that award, the governor falsely claimed it on an application for a White House fellowship in 2006. Over the following years, when TV interviewers said Moore had a Bronze Star, he didn't correct him.
You're a decorated veteran of the Afghan War, yes, correct? Get the Bronze Star.
FOX45 News first reported on the controversy in 2022 when Moore was on the campaign trail. At the time, his campaign responded with a statement writing, quote, Sinclair Broadcast Group's smear campaign is now seeking to discredit Wes Moore's honorable and decorated service to his country in combat based off of isolated times other people misstated his record. The governor changed his tune in 2024 after the New York Times published a report about the missing Bronze Star, including claims he included the medal on his White House fellowship application. After the article came out, Moore called it an honest mistake.
I've taken full responsibility for what was in there, and yes, I understand that a superior officer told me to put it in there, but it wasn't his application. It was my application. So I'm taking full responsibility.
Governor Moore, when we asked you about this 2 years ago during the campaign, a spokesperson for your campaign said that you never claimed to have a Bronze Star, but now we've seen the application for the White House fellowship, and that wasn't true. So do you regret the comments that you made or your campaign made that, looking back now, were inaccurate?
Yeah, I do regret the fact that I didn't go back and change it. Honestly, I'd forgotten about it after I put together the application. It was nearly 20 years ago, and I honestly just forgot about it. It was an honest mistake.
During a recent appearance on CBS for a town hall with Norah O'Donnell, Governor Moore said the next Democratic leader should focus on healing the country. When it comes to the previous administration, the governor said he was critical of how former President Joe Biden handled immigration.
Well, I definitely think that the former president did not have this right. Oh, yes, and we needed to do more. I don't think anyone can argue that we had the system worked out under President Biden. Immigration has been an issue that we as a country have punted on for a very long time.
Now, the governor went to the White House right after Biden's disastrous debate performance that led to him dropping out. And then once Biden had dropped out, the governor campaigned for Kamala Harris, who played a key role in immigration policy during Biden's administration. Even as he critiques the Biden administration's immigration policy, Governor Moore is facing his own questions over recent legislation here in Maryland. The first bill the governor signed this session was a ban on the 287G program, which facilitates agreements between local law enforcement and federal immigration agents. But the governor argues the bill will not prevent local jurisdictions from working with ICE entirely.
We will continue to coordinate on shared public safety priorities, including the lawful removal of non-citizen offenders who pose a risk to public safety. And there is nothing that we should not do to make sure not just that our people are protected, but also to make sure that our people can thrive.
Now, at the time of the bill signing, 9 counties had agreements like these with ICE. Sheriffs from across the state have pushed back against the ban, and now they're saying even though the formal agreements may no longer exist, they won't stop working with federal agents.
I'm willing to fight that fight because I know this program has kept my county safe.
We are going to continue to look at and review all options.
Absolutely, I will continue to work with ICE.
On Wednesday, the Department of Homeland Security announced a 957% increase in 287G partnerships across the country under Trump administration. DHS says the number of agreements has skyrocketed from 135 to more than 1,400 across 40 states. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt addressed the new legislation during a press briefing on Wednesday. She called it a bad decision, defending Maryland sheriffs.
It's another despicable action by Governor Wes Moore. Why would you prevent your state and local law enforcement from cooperating with federal law enforcement? If you just ask them, to your point, if you ask a sheriff across the country if they want to have that level of cooperation and coordination with the federal government, of course they do. And this is another just horrible and frankly political action taken by Governor Wes Moore. And unfortunately, the people of his state are going to reap the consequences of it.
Now, joining me now to talk about the governor's feud with the president is political analyst John Deedy. John, thanks for always being here with us to talk about these issues. This isn't the first time you and I have discussed the back and forth between Governor Moore and President Trump, and here we are again. Will this feud ever end?
Not going to end until President Trump leaves office and if Governor Moore isn't President Moore. And the thing is about this thing is it helps Governor Moore in some ways because it elevates his profile. And when Trump is feuding with Moore, progressives see Moore fighting back. He has toned down some of the rhetoric on the fighting back, which is a good thing. And I think that's been helpful. With the Potomac River spill, he cited as far as it technically wasn't the state of Maryland's responsibility, it was a D.C. and federal government issue. On some of the things Norah O'Donnell talked about earlier this week regarding the racism, she was trying to bait the governor, and I think he handled that really well by basically saying, ask him about this. But I think he's done a lot better job doing that type of stuff.
Why is Governor Moore, why does the president continue to talk about the governor or take swipes at him and the governor, fires back in some capacity, defending the state, as I'm sure is what he would argue is what he's doing. But why Maryland? Why Governor Moore?
I think because Moore has a high national profile. The media's helped pump that up a bit. And the national media, I mean, Andy Beshear and Gretchen Whitmer are also Democratic governors doing a variety of things, but their profile has been a lot lower, and intentionally in some ways. But because Moore is seen as a future rising star, he's easy to poke at a little bit, and for Trump to draw attention to Moore doing it that way. So I think that's why, unfortunately, Maryland gets singled out because of those types of things.
Who could ultimately be on the losing end of this if this feud continues and the two, continue to take jabs at each other? Could Marylanders ultimately see federal funding pulled or something like that?
I think Maryland taxpayers could be the loser only because you never know what the emotions and rage of the president is at any moment, deciding, hey, I want to do something about the Key Bridge, or I'm going to cut more federal workers, et cetera. That's the one wild card in the whole thing. And that's why I think you've noticed since August, the governor has toned down a lot of rhetoric. It was really hot in August about ICE and a variety of other things. And even with the new agreement that he recently signed regarding ICE agents of the federal government, he kind of tried to have it a little bit both ways, basically saying, I still back law enforcement, but signing this bill. So progressives can see it and say, hey, this is a great thing. At the same time, he did the other thing, playing off the other side.
All right, we'll have to see how this continues to unfold. John Deedy, thanks as always.
You're welcome.
Still to come, President Trump is also calling out Governor Moore over the ongoing raw sewage spill into the Potomac River. How local leaders are responding as the federal government steps in to help with the cleanup.
Are you guys ready to go?
I've been taking notes.
We are going to draft our teams.
Let's go, Team Arrington.
Let's go, Team Blaze. Assemble.
The Gordon girls.
This is falling apart.
No missed platforms, right?
Oh, my God.
Are you kidding me?
Tonight on Fox 45.
Start your day with Fox 45 Morning News. Investigations you won't see anywhere else. Fox 45 Morning News. All local, all morning.
Even if you have moderate to severe eczema, you can feel the rhythm, feel the flow, and Dupixent helps you feel the heal. It helps calm the key source of inflammation under the skin that can cause eczema. Some adults saw fast itch relief after the first dose and long-lasting clear skin at 1 year. Many even saw 90% clear skin. Severe allergic reactions, including skin reactions, can occur. Get help right away for face, mouth, tongue, or throat swelling, wheezing, or trouble breathing. Tell your doctor of new or worsening eye problems like eye pain or vision changes, skin symptoms, joint aches and pain, or a parasitic infection. Don't change or stop other treatments without talking to your doctor. Stay ahead of eczema and help heal your skin from within. Dupixent, the #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists and allergists. Ask your eczema specialist about Dupixent today.
You can shop for this modular sectional at the competition.
Or you can get the 5-star modular bob at Bob's.
Both have buttery soft upholstery in multiple colors, but only ours has storage and costs hundreds less.
Oh, my Bob! Bob's Discount Furniture.
When my father started this firm nearly 50 years ago, he believed that every injured person deserves someone to fight for them.
That belief still guides us today. Injury law isn't just what we do, it's who we are.
Call 1-800-INJURED.
Governor Moore and the Trump administration are also going back and forth over the ongoing sewage spill near the Potomac River. The spill began 1 month ago when a sewer pipe built in the 1960s along the Potomac River interceptor in Montgomery County collapsed. The line carries about 60 million gallons of wastewater each day, and Governor Moore is urging Marylanders to avoid unnecessary contact with the river. On Truth Social, President Trump blamed Governor Moore and other leaders in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia for the spill, accusing them of, quote, gross mismanagement. Governor Moore responded, arguing the federal government has been responsible for the Potomac interceptor for decades. The president now directing federal authorities to take over sewage spill response after the mayor of D.C. issued an emergency declaration asking the federal government for assistance. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt doubling down on the president's claims as the governor pushes back.
There has been no improvement under the leadership of Governor Moore. He's clearly shown he's incapable of fixing this problem, which is why President Trump and the federal government are standing by to step in.
I mean, what she says is laughable, and it continues to remind me that this is not a serious team that we're working with. We're talking about a DC pipe on federal land. Right? The area that we're talking about, that has been under federal control for the past century. And so any indication or any insinuation that somehow this is a Maryland issue or a Virginia issue is ridiculous.
Joining me now to talk about the issues surrounding this spill is Brad Bell from our sister station in Washington, D.C. Brad, we've seen the president and Governor Wes Moore point the finger at each other. Can you really explain for us the jurisdiction issues here? Who's ultimately responsible for this problem?
Yeah, it can all be a little bit confusing, but you know, around the D.C. area there is a lot of shared jurisdiction, and that is the case with regard to this Potomac interceptor pipe as well. So when the governor says it's a federal issue, well, it is in fact on federal land. It is in the C&O Canal Towpath National Park. It's national park land. And, you know, it's in Maryland as well, but the pipe is serving people from Virginia, Maryland, and it's flowing into the District of Columbia, where the sewage in that huge pipe is treated by the DC Water, which is an organization that has its roots going back all the way to the Civil War. And essentially, in more recent times, it was set up as its own entity, almost ironically at this point, to kind of keep politics out of it so that they could have their own budget, they could do their own billing, they could manage their own affairs without a whole lot of political interference. So a lot of different jurisdictions involved. When the president says it's Maryland's issue, that's not entirely true. When the governor says this is a federal issue, that too is not entirely true. It's shared.
A lot going on here. And I know the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, recently requested federal assistance through that presidential emergency disaster declaration. What's next for this cleanup effort?
Yeah, and so that disaster declaration is really a request for money. Right? You know, when you hear a disaster declaration, and notably in Maryland, the governor asked for some help out in Western Maryland following the floods, and they were denied. So that really is just saying, hey, federal government, help us pay the bill. It's not asking the federal government to come in and physically do things. DC Water is who is on the ground doing things, right? They've got a huge broken pipe, and they need to fix it. So to fix it, you need heavy equipment, you need people that know how to do that, and then you need the replacement parts. DC Water has that. The federal government doesn't have that, so really that's just a request for money. And I don't believe we've gotten an answer back yet as to whether or not it'd be forthcoming.
All right, that's so interesting, Brad. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of jurisdictions, and a lot of politicians pointing the finger at each other. Thank you for updating us, and keep us updated as this really unfolds in the weeks and months to come. Now, following the sewage spill, clean water advocates at the Potomac River Keeper Network called on officials to respond to high levels of bacteria and pathogens in the water, which they say raise urgent health concerns for the public. Here now to talk about the wide impacts of the spill is the Potomac River Keeper Network President Betsy Nicholas. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time.
Glad to be here.
Now, the pipeline has been identified for repairs last summer, as I understand, but obviously those repairs didn't happen before this break, this collapse. How would you describe the response from leaders from your perspective?
Mixed. So certainly there was good reaction from DC Water and Sewer Authority in terms of getting out on the site and trying to do a bypass. What we've really been lacking is any kind of leadership on public health concerns. So this is in a residential area where this happens, even though it's Park Service land. And a lot of people live around there. We have heard from people who were fishing in the few days before the giant ice storm and had not heard anything about this spill and got sick. And it probably wasn't the fish, it was probably the water they were in contact with when fishing. There's a big bridge right near the site of 495 going over the river, and it is a common place for people to fish. So we are pretty frustrated that it's taken as long as it has to get those warnings out to people so that they can stay safe.
Yeah, I imagine that a lot of people are learning about this, and recently, even though this happened a month ago at this point. Now, would you call this spill contained at this point? I know we've heard that word floating around from some politicians, but is that true?
I would call it partially contained because there's an effective bypass in place. And what that does, it's kind of like a road detour, right? It goes above where the pipeline broke, pumps all of the sewage up to, as you said, 60 million gallons a day can be in this pipeline. It's a lot, into the C&O Canal, and then pipes it back in. So that is not a pipeline. That is a canal that is open air. And the bypass has numerous smaller pipes than the obvious 72-inch or 6-foot wide Potomac Interceptor pipe, and they can clog. And in fact, they have. They clogged on Super Bowl Sunday, a lot of people home, eating, drinking, flushing their toilets. And so when that happens, there's again another overflow of sewage that can run into the creek and right into the Potomac River, and that happened. But also the canal is open air.
Right.
So that is not, I wouldn't consider that fully contained. They have managed it pretty effectively and greatly reduced the amount of sewage going into the river, but yeah, contained seems like a pretty big overstatement.
Now, last question for you. What's the long-term impacts of this? I know it could take up to 9 months for the full repair and replacement projects, and there's going to be a temporary fix in place sooner than that, but long-term, what are we looking at?
Well, certainly there's been sort of a stigma damage to the Potomac River, which in addition to lots of beautiful recreational activities, is home to a very lively oyster hatching business downstream. The oystermen that we've talked to, or watermen, have said that nobody wants to buy their oysters, even though they're probably not at any risk as far as away from the spill as they are. There's a blue cat fishery for the invasive blue catfish to harvest them and make them into pet food and stop them eating everything else in the river. And again, they're not able to do this right now either because of the concern. But there's sewage all over the place right now on the banks of the river. I was out there today, and I sterilized myself quite heavily before coming back into my house. But it's a big mess, and it's going to take a long time to clean up and to get the river back to the health it was before this happened.
All right. Well, Betsy, I really appreciate your time, your insight, and hopefully we can stay in touch as this project really gets underway. Thank you.
Thank you.
This week, we asked whether you think the governor's feud with President Trump is helping or harming Maryland. We'll take a look at some of your responses after the break.
Here's tonight's primetime lineup on Fox 45. Brought to you locally by your McDonald's owner-operators.
Baltimore and Bel Air. Get ready for some revolutionary savings at the Bob Bell Chevy President's Day sale. Save up to $11,000 on a new Silverado from Baltimore's #1 selling Silverado dealer. But these historic deals won't last long. Come see us today.
This is Joe's adventurous spirit that was passed down from his dad. But because Joe also inherited his dad's chronic back pain, this is his trusted MedStar Health primary care doctor that easily connected him with one of our top-rated spine specialists that determined Joe needed surgery, followed by physical therapy with our expert team. That means this dynamic duo is ready for their next big thrill. MedStar Health, it's how we treat people.
When you say let's go to breakfast, you mean let's go to McDonald's. Obviously.
Go from yawn to yay with a 2 for $5 deal on your favorite breakfast sandwiches.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Amazing America 250 and McDonald's, celebrating African Americans. Garrett Morgan invented the three-way traffic signal, improving road safety and forever changing how Americans travel and share the streets. Sponsored by McDonald's.
The Baldy Pro, only at Groomy.
Hi, we're the Impact Home Team.
And we buy houses for cash.
But more importantly, we help people struggling with an unwanted property.
We've helped with every scenario: severely damaged or vacant houses, rundown rentals,
even homes in great condition going through foreclosure or family dispute. We offer you an easier way to get out of that problem property.
And you make no repairs, pay no commission, and no fees.
We even close on your timeline. It just takes a few minutes on the phone
to see if our family can help yours.
Call 410-656-1111.
Baltimore and Bel Air, get ready for some revolutionary savings at the Bob Bell Chevy President's Day sale. Save on the hot new Chevy Trax as low as $24,900 and no payments for 120 days. But these historic deals won't last long. Come see us today.
This week, we asked, do you think Governor Moore's feud with the president is helping or harming Maryland? Let's take a look at what some of you had to say. Eric Lord says it definitely isn't helping, but I can't say it's hurting us, but it's not helping. And Douglas says one word, harming. One more. Jessica says harming for sure. All right, that's it for this week's edition of Fox 45 News in Depth. I'm Mikenzie Frost. Hey, I'm Mikenzie Frost. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Check out Fox Baltimore on all of our social media pages for more videos just like this.